A dangerous rescue. On the distant planet of Arthenia, towering trees loomed over the landscape, their bioluminescent leaves casting an eerie glow across the forest floor. A cool breeze rustled through the branches, but Taran paid little attention to the beauty surrounding him. He was on a mission for the Galactic Survey Corporation, exploring uncharted territories, gathering data, and mapping the rich terrain. However, the thrill of discovery quickly turned into a fight for survival when he detected an ominous sound echoing through the trees. His heart raced as he sprinted through the dense underbrush, a primal instinct kicking in. Sweat dripped down his brow, his muscles strained with effort. Behind him, a deep, rumbling growl reverberated through the air, sending shivers down his spine. He knew that whatever creature was pursuing him was faster than anything he had encountered before. With every step, the sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, and Taran felt the weight of dread pressing down on him. Keep moving, he urged himself, vaulting over thick roots and ducking under low-hanging branches. Just as he thought he might find safety, he stumbled into a clearing illuminated by the glow of his ship parked nearby. But relief was fleeting. At the center of the clearing was an unimaginable sight. A young alien girl, chained to a gnarled tree, her terrified eyes wide with fear. She had shimmering silver hair that cascaded down her shoulders, and her delicate features were marked by sheer panic. Taran's heart sank as he registered the danger she was in. The creature chasing him was no ordinary predator. It was a massive, grotesque beast with glistening fangs and a hungry glint in its eyes. Taran's instincts kicked in again, but this time they were fueled by something deeper, compassion. He dashed toward the girl, fumbling with the strange bindings that held her captive. "It's okay," he gasped, trying to soothe her. "I'm here to help." The girl's luminous purple eyes widened as she watched him approach. She spoke in an ethereal language, her voice a melody of panic that heightened Taran's urgency. But before he could reassure her further, a deafening roar erupted from the forest, the sound echoing like thunder. Taran glanced back, his breath catching in his throat as the monster broke through the tree line, its hulking form a terrifying sight. With little time to think, Taran reached for his pulse blaster, his fingers trembling as he aimed at the creature. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, muscles rippling beneath its thick, armored hide, eyes burning with rage. The creature lunged, and in that moment, Taran felt a surge of adrenaline. He fired, plasma bolts lighting up the night as they struck the beast, but it barely flinched. Taran ducked to the side as a massive claw swiped at him, narrowly missing. "I won't let it take you," he muttered under his breath, determination setting his jaw. He poured every ounce of strength into his next volley of shots, aiming for the glowing nodes embedded in the creature's flesh, but the beast was relentless. With each passing moment, the struggle intensified. The creature was undeterred, its rage fueling it to continue the fight. Taran could feel his heart pounding, each beat resonating with a desperate hope to protect the girl behind him. As he continued to fire, the beast finally reared back, howling in pain. But just when he thought he had the upper hand, the creature's tail swung in a deadly arc, slamming into Taran and sending him crashing into a tree. Stars exploded in his vision as pain lanced through his body. Struggling to rise, he watched the monster advance toward the alien girl, its predatory gaze locking onto her. "No," he roared, fighting through the agony. He staggered to his feet, raising his blaster again, but this time the creature was too close. Just as it prepared to strike, Taran fired once more, the plasma bolt hitting the creature squarely in the face. The beast howled in agony, thrashing as Taran unleashed a relentless barrage of fire. Each shot was fueled by desperation and resolve. He would not let his creature harm the innocent girl. Finally, with a deafening roar, the monster collapsed to the ground, its body twitching before falling still. Panting heavily, Taran turned to the girl, who was now staring at him in awe. "You're safe now," he said, his voice hoarse but filled with relief. He rushed over to her, working quickly to free her from the chains. As he unshackled her wrists, she gazed up at him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and wonder. With the bindings finally undone, the girl stepped closer, her skin glimmering in the soft light. Taran couldn't help but marvel at her ethereal beauty. "What's your name?" he asked, still catching his breath. "Luna," she whispered, placing a hand over her heart, a gesture that seemed to signify her deep appreciation. Taran smiled, feeling a connection with her that he couldn't quite explain. Together, they moved toward his ship, the terrifying encounter slowly fading behind them. Yet even in that moment of triumph, Taran couldn't shake the feeling that their adventure was only just beginning. As they entered the ship, the metallic airlock hissed shut behind them, sealing them away from the horrors of the forest. Taran took a moment to steady himself, but the weight of exhaustion began to settle in. He was alive, and so was Luna. But as he glanced at her, he noticed a flicker of unease in her eyes. "Let's get you checked out in the med bay," he suggested, leading her deeper into the ship. She nodded, her silver hair shimmering as she followed him, and Taran could sense the vulnerability emanating from her. He wanted to protect her, to ensure she was safe from any lingering threats. The med bay was small but efficient, equipped with advanced technology that he hoped would help. Taran guided Luna onto the examination table, noticing how small and fragile she looked in the sterile environment. As he scanned her for injuries, he couldn't help but admire the intricate patterns etched into her skin, glowing softly as if alive. "Beautiful," he murmured without thinking, his fingers hovering over one of the markings. Luna blushed, her cheeks turning a delicate shade of pink. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," Taran quickly added, pulling back. But Luna shook her head, reaching out to touch his cheek gently. "Taran," she said, her voice like a soft melody. The way she said his name sent a shiver down his spine, igniting a sense of warmth and connection that left him speechless. "I promise I will keep you safe," he vowed, meeting her gaze with sincerity. But as he looked into her eyes, he realized that their connection was more profound than mere survival. In that moment, he felt a responsibility to protect not just her life, but her dignity and spirit. With the immediate threat behind them, Taran knew they had to find answers. They needed to understand what had happened, why she was chained in that clearing, and what challenges lay ahead. As he prepped the ship for departure, Taran felt an unfamiliar sense of purpose swelling within him. He wasn't just a rescuer. He was determined to uncover the truth behind Luna's mysterious existence. With the ship ready, Taran piloted it into the night sky, leaving the horrors of the forest far behind. As the stars twinkled above, he felt a newfound sense of hope. Whatever awaited them in the city, he was ready to face it with Luna by his side. Their journey had just begun, but Taran was prepared to fight for Luna's freedom, for her rights, and for the truth that connected them both. The stars glimmered above, promising endless possibilities as they soared toward an uncertain fate, and Taran realized that he had stumbled into an adventure far greater than he could have ever imagined. The unknown threats await. As the ship ascended through the atmosphere of Arthenia, Taran felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. The forest below faded into a tapestry of vibrant colors, and the bioluminescent trees sparkled like stars against the dark ground. However, his heart was heavy with the knowledge that their ordeal was far from over. Luna's past was shrouded in mystery, and he needed to uncover the truth behind her captivity. "Where are we going?" Luna asked, her voice delicate but steady. She leaned closer, her luminous eyes wide with curiosity as she took in the cockpit's flashing controls and screens. "To the nearest city," Taran replied, adjusting the ship's course. "There we can find help, someone who understands your language, someone who knows what's happening." He glanced at her, noting the flicker of hope in her gaze, and felt a surge of determination. "We'll figure this out together." As they soared higher, Taran's mind raced with questions. What was the significance of Luna being a pure sacrifice? Who had captured her, and for what purpose? The alien leader's words haunted him, echoing in his thoughts. Taran shook his head, trying to dispel the unease settling in the pit of his stomach. He needed to focus. "Do you remember what happened before you were chained up?" he asked, breaking the silence. Luna's expression shifted, a shadow crossing her features. She bit her lip, as if choosing her words carefully. "I was taken from my home," she began slowly, her voice trembling. "I don't know why. They came in the night, dragged me away." Her voice trailed off, and Taryn could see the pain reflected in her eyes. "Hey," he said softly, reaching out to take her hand. "You're safe now. We'll find a way to make this right." Luna nodded but remained silent, lost in her thoughts. Taryn wished he could comfort her more, but he knew they needed to stay alert. As they approached the city, the landscape transformed. Towering spires glistened like jewels under the light of two suns, a bustling metropolis that seemed alive with activity. "Wow," Luna breathed, her eyes sparkling as they descended. "I've never seen anything like it." Taryn maneuvered the ship toward a landing pad, carefully navigating through the throng of vehicles hovering above the city streets. "It's a hub of commerce and culture," he explained. "But we need to be cautious. Not everyone will be friendly." As the ship touched down, Taryn's instincts kicked in. He activated the ship's security systems, ensuring the doors were locked before stepping out. Luna followed closely behind, her slender form dwarfed by the ship's bulk. They emerged into a vibrant market square, filled with a cacophony of sounds and colors. Vendors shouted to attract customers, their stalls brimming with exotic goods from various planets. The air was rich with the sense of unfamiliar spices and roasted meats. Taryn felt a pang of hunger, but quickly pushed it aside. He had more pressing concerns. "Stay close," he instructed Luna, who nodded, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the bustling atmosphere. Together, they navigated the crowd, weaving between aliens of all shapes and sizes. Taryn couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. A sense of danger lurked just beyond their periphery, and he felt a growing tension in the air. As they approached a nearby stall selling holographic maps, Taryn overheard snippets of conversation. The sacrifice. The monster. A group of aliens were huddled together, whispering urgently. Taryn's heart raced as he leaned in closer, trying to catch more of their discussion. "She escaped," one of them hissed. "The human defiled her, and now the gods will demand retribution." Taryn's breath caught in his throat. The mention of the gods made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He exchanged a quick glance with Luna, who seemed oblivious to the threat, her attention focused on the vibrant stalls. But Taryn felt the weight of the words lingering in the air, thick with foreboding. "We need to go," he said firmly, leading Luna away from the stall. They continued through the market, Taryn's senses on high alert. The vibrant atmosphere felt suddenly claustrophobic, the smiles and laughter of the crowd morphing into a backdrop of tension and potential violence. "Where are we going?" Luna asked again, sensing his unease. "I need to find someone who can help us," Taryn replied. "We need information about your situation." Just then, a group of rough-looking aliens emerged from an alleyway, their eyes narrowing as they spotted Taryn and Luna. Taryn's stomach twisted. They were the same group he had seen earlier, the ones who had eyed Luna with predatory intent. "Look who it is," the leader sneered, stepping forward with a menacing grin. "The human who thinks he can save the girl." His gaze shifted to Luna, eyes glimmering with a mixture of desire and malice. "You should have known better than to defile her. You've put yourself in danger, human." Taryn's jaw clenched as he instinctively stepped in front of Luna, his fingers drifting toward the pulse blaster at his hip. "She's not yours to take," he growled, a fierce protectiveness surging within him. The leader laughed, a low, threatening sound. "You don't understand, do you? She is a sacrifice. You've ruined everything." He gestured to the others, and Taryn felt the hairs on his arms prickle as they closed in around them. "Back off," Taryn shouted, raising his blaster. The crowd around them fell silent, eyes drawn to the unfolding confrontation. The tension in the air crackled like static, a mix of fear and anticipation. "Just hand her over," the leader demanded, his tone dripping with malice. "No one will be harmed if you comply." Luna clutched Taryn's arm, fear evident in her eyes. "Taryn, what do we do?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the noise of the crowd. "We stand our ground," Taryn replied, determination flooding his veins. He couldn't let these thugs take Luna. Not now, not after everything they have faced together. Suddenly, the leader lunged forward, reaching for Luna. Taryn reacted instinctively, stepping between them and firing his blaster. The plasma bolt hit the ground just short of the leader's feet, sending up a shower of sparks. "I said, back off," Taryn shouted, his voice echoing through the square. The leader stumbled back, eyes wide with shock and anger. "You'll regret this, human," he spat before retreating into the crowd, his gang following close behind. Taryn stood firm, ready for a fight, but the moment passed as the throng of onlookers murmured amongst themselves, their expressions a mix of intrigue and fear. "Are you okay?" Taryn asked Luna, turning to her. She nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "We need to find a safe place," he continued, scanning the area for any signs of danger. Luna took a deep breath, her gaze firming. "I can help," she said, surprising Taryn. "I know someone who might be able to assist us, but we need to move quickly." "Lead the way," Taryn replied, following her as she slipped through the crowd with a newfound determination. They navigated winding streets, the vibrant energy of the city contrasting sharply with the danger lurking just beneath the surface. After several minutes of weaving through the bustling market, they arrived at a narrow alleyway. At the end stood a modest building adorned with glowing symbols, pulsating softly in the twilight. "This is it," Luna said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "My friend Zara can help us." As they approached the entrance, Taryn's heart raced with anticipation and uncertainty. What would Zara know about Luna's situation? What would they discover once inside? He pushed the door open, and a small bell chimed, announcing their arrival. The interior was dimly lit, filled with an eclectic mix of artifacts from across the galaxy. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, slender alien with deep green skin and piercing blue eyes. "Luna," she exclaimed, rushing forward to embrace the young girl. "I'm so glad you're safe." Zora's voice was filled with warmth and concern. She pulled back to look at Luna, her expression shifting to one of alarm as she noticed Taryn. "And who is this?" "This is Taryn," Luna explained quickly. "He saved me from the creature in the forest." Zora's gaze softened as she studied Taryn, then nodded appreciatively. "Thank you for protecting her, but we have much to discuss." "Why was Luna taken?" Taryn asked, urgency lacing his voice. "What does it mean to be a sacrifice?" Zora's expression darkened as she led them deeper into the shop. "Come, I'll explain everything." As they settled into a small room filled with strange, glowing crystals, Taryn felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The answers he sought were within reach, but what he would learn could change everything for both him and Luna. Luna was chosen by the elders of her village as a pure sacrifice to the mountain gods, Zara began, her tone serious. They believed that offering a pure soul would appease the monsters that have plagued our land for generations. Secrets of the elders. Taryn sat across from Zara and Luna, the tension in the small room palpable. As Zara continued to explain the weight of Luna's predicament, Taryn felt the ground shift beneath him. This was no ordinary tale of heroism and rescue. This was a deep-rooted tradition that tied Luna's fate to the whims of ancient customs. The elders believed that every 100 years, a sacrifice must be made to the mountain gods. Zara elaborated, her voice steady but laced with concern. In their eyes, this appeasement ensures prosperity and protection for our people. Luna was chosen because of her purity, her innocence. It's a tradition steeped in superstition, and yet, it holds an iron grip over our society. Taryn's heart raced as he processed her words. "But he can't just let them do this," he interjected, a surge of anger rising within him. Luna is a person, not a trophy to be offered up to appease some mythical beings. Zara nodded, her expression grave. You're right, but traditions are hard to break, especially when fear governs the actions of the people. The elders have convinced them that the monsters are real, and only through these sacrifices can they ensure safety. It's been centuries since anyone questioned it. Luna looked down, her silver hair falling like a curtain over her face, shielding her from the weight of their gaze. I didn't know any of this, she whispered. I thought I was just being taken away. I had no idea I was meant to be sacrificed. Taran reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. You're not a sacrifice, Luna. You're so much more than that. He turned back to Zara, his expression fierce. We have to stop this. There has to be a way to save her. Zara sighed, a heavy sound filled with the weight of unspoken knowledge. To confront the elders is dangerous. They are powerful and hold sway over the entire community. But if you wish to fight for Luna, you'll need allies. You cannot face them alone. Where can we find these allies? Taran asked, his determination growing. He felt the pull of a purpose larger than himself, a desire to protect not just Luna, but to challenge the traditions that had oppressed her people for so long. Zara's blue eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief. I have a few contacts, but we must tread carefully. The city is alive with whispers, and if the wrong ears hear our plans, it could spell disaster for all of us. Taran nodded, understanding the stakes. Lead the way, he urged. They needed to act swiftly. Every moment wasted could bring Luna closer to the fate they were desperate to avoid. Zara stood, gesturing for them to follow her. The trio navigated through narrow corridors filled with curiosities from across the galaxy, artifacts of a rich culture that seemed to pulse with life. The walls were adorned with murals depicting the history of the Arthenian people, and Taran felt a mix of awe and anger as he realized how deeply ingrained their traditions were. As they stepped outside, the sounds of the bustling market enveloped them once more. Taran felt a heightened sense of awareness, every noise and movement around him sharp and pronounced. He glanced at Luna, whose eyes flickered with uncertainty, but also a spark of determination. They would fight for her freedom, and he would stand beside her, no matter the cost. Zara led them through winding streets, where they stopped at a small tavern nestled between towering buildings. This is a safe spot, she assured them, glancing over her shoulder as they entered. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of spiced beverages and the low hum of conversation. Stay close, Taran advised, taking a seat near the back. He watched as Zara approached a group of locals, her demeanor confident and commanding. As she spoke in hushed tones, Taran felt Luna's hand slip into his, a gesture of solidarity that brought him comfort. Who are we meeting? Luna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Friends, Taran replied, squeezing her hand reassuringly. People who understand the dangers of tradition and can help us. Moments later, Zara returned, a serious expression on her face. This is Eren, she said, gesturing toward a stocky alien with green skin and a scar running across his cheek. His presence was commanding, and Taran sensed an air of authority surrounding him. Luna, Eren said, nodding in her direction. I've heard your story. The elders won't let this go easily. We need to figure out a plan, Taran interjected. We can't let them take her. Eren studied Taran for a long moment, then spoke. The elders are protected by tradition and fear. To dismantle that, we need to rally the people, to show them that Luna is not a sacrifice, but a member of our community. Luna's eyes widened. You would do that for me? Eren nodded, his expression serious. We're not just doing this for you. We're doing it for everyone who has suffered under the weight of these traditions. We must show them that fear can be challenged. Where do we start? Taran asked, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. We start by gathering support, Zara replied. We must speak to those who have felt the oppression of the elders' rule. There are many who would stand with us if they understood the truth. As the group formulated their plan, Taran's resolve solidified. He felt a fire igniting within him, an unwavering determination to protect Luna and challenge the ancient customs that sought to bind her. Over the next few hours, they moved through the city, speaking to anyone who would listen. Taran shared Luna's story, detailing her bravery and the danger she faced. Many listened with rapt attention, their eyes widening as they heard about the traditions that had enslaved their community for generations. "We have been afraid for too long," Zara declared to a gathering of locals in a small plaza. "It's time we stand together and reclaim our future. Luna is not a sacrifice. She is a beacon of hope for all of us." The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, while others looked skeptical. Taran could feel the tide beginning to turn, but they needed more than just words. They needed action. "Tonight, we hold a gathering," Erin announced. "Invite your friends, your family. We will share the truth about what the elders have done and rally support for Luna. We will not let her be taken." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the city, Taran felt a surge of hope. They had taken the first step in a long journey toward liberation. With each person who joined their cause, Taran felt the weight of the world begin to lift. Luna stood beside him, her presence a source of strength. "Thank you, Taran," she said softly, her eyes filled with gratitude, "for believing in me." "It's not just about you, Luna," Taran replied, determination hardening his resolve. "It's about everyone who deserves a chance to live freely." As they prepared for the gathering, Taran's mind raced with possibilities. They would challenge the elders and their archaic traditions, and together they would forge a new path for Luna and her people. But deep down, he knew that confronting the elders would not be without peril. They would be met with resistance, and there were those who would do anything to maintain their power. Taran felt a chill race down his spine as he realized the stakes had never been higher. The night air buzzed with anticipation as they set up for the gathering, lanterns illuminating the plaza. Taran and Luna took their positions, ready to share their story with the crowd. As the people gathered, Taran felt the electric energy in the air, a mix of hope and fear intertwining. The time had come to confront tradition, to stand against the shadows of the past. And with Luna by his side, Taran felt invincible, ready to fight for a future where no one would be shackled by fear ever again. The gathering of hope. As the moon rose high over Arthenia, the vibrant plaza transformed into a beacon of light and anticipation. Lanterns flickered, casting warm glows on the faces of the assembled crowd, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and unease. Taran stood at the front of the gathering, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. Luna stood beside him, her silver hair shimmering under the soft light, her eyes wide with determination. "We're here tonight to reclaim Luna's life," Taran began, his voice steady and resolute. "To challenge the traditions that bind us to fear and sacrifice." He felt a surge of energy as he spoke, the words echoing through the plaza, resonating with those who had gathered to listen. Zara and Erin flanked him, their presence lending credibility to the message. The crowd murmured among themselves, a mixture of fear and hope swirling in the air. Taran could see faces he recognized from the market, people who had listened to his story, who had shown glimmers of interest. "Luna is not a sacrifice," Taran continued, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. "She is a person, a member of this community, and she deserves to live freely without the shadow of tradition hanging over her. We've been conditioned to accept this as our fate, but tonight, we stand together to challenge that." A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience, emboldening Taran. He felt Luna's hand squeeze his reassuringly, grounding him as he pressed on. "The elders have kept us in fear for far too long. They have convinced us that sacrifices must be made to appease the gods. But who benefits from this? It is not us. It is time we took a stand." Luna stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "I never wanted to be a sacrifice. I wanted to explore, to live. I didn't understand why I was taken, why my life was dictated by ancient customs. But now I understand that I am not alone. I have Taryn, and I have all of you." Her eyes shone with a fierce light as she spoke, capturing the attention of the crowd. "Together we can change the narrative," she urged, her passion igniting a fire within the hearts of those present. "We can fight for our right to choose our own destinies. It's time for the elders to hear our voices." As Luna finished speaking, Taryn felt the crowd's energy shift, a wave of solidarity washing over them. He looked around, noticing nods of agreement and expressions of determination. The people were beginning to believe, and he could sense the tide turning. Aaron stepped forward next, his presence commanding. "We have to make them see that we will no longer be held captive by their fear. We must show them that we are united. If we stand together, we cannot be silenced." The crowd erupted into murmurs of agreement, voices rising as they began to rally around the message of change. Taryn could see the flicker of courage igniting in their eyes, a collective realization that they had the power to alter the course of their future. Zara, sensing the momentum, raised her arms to call for silence. "Tomorrow, we confront the elders in the council chamber. We will present our case, not just for Luna, but for all those who have suffered under their rule. This is our moment to reclaim our future." The energy surged through the crowd, and Taryn could feel their hearts beating in unison. "We are not here to fight for tradition. We are here to fight for freedom," he shouted, his voice ringing out into the night, echoing off the walls of the buildings surrounding them. "Freedom," the crowd chanted back, the word resonating with power and purpose. Taryn felt a surge of pride as they raised their voices together, united in their cause. As the gathering continued, Taryn felt the weight of their mission crystallizing in his mind. He had always been a loner, preferring to explore the unknown rather than engage in the politics of society. But standing here with Luna, witnessing the birth of a movement, he understood the importance of community and the strength that came from unity. The night wore on, filled with passionate speeches and fervent discussions. Taryn mingled with the crowd, sharing stories and gathering names of those willing to stand with them. He felt an overwhelming sense of hope blossoming within him, a hope that was infectious and vibrant, pulsing like a heartbeat through the crowd. "Are you ready to face the elders?" Luna asked quietly as they stepped away from the group for a moment. The excitement of the gathering buzzed around them, but Taryn could see a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "We will be ready," he assured her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "This is our chance, Luna. Together, we can change everything." "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. Taryn felt a warmth spread through him at her words, the bond between them strengthening in the shared moment. As they returned to the gathering, Taryn caught sight of a figure slipping through the crowd, a familiar face that made his heart race with recognition. "Aaron," he called, motioning for the stout alien to approach. "Have you found any more allies?" Aaron asked, his brows furrowing in concern. Taryn shook his head. "But I think we've made significant progress tonight. People are beginning to understand. We just need to keep the momentum going until tomorrow." "Good," Aaron replied, his voice low and serious. "But we must remain cautious. The elders won't take kindly to our actions. They will try to undermine our resolve, to intimidate us. We must be prepared for their tactics." Taryn felt a chill run down his spine at the thought of the elders' retaliation. He knew they would not give up their power easily. "We can't let fear control us," he stated firmly. "Luna and I have faced danger already. We're ready to fight for what's right." As the gathering began to dwindle, Taryn felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. The adrenaline that had fueled him earlier was fading, and he could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on his shoulders. But as he glanced at Luna, her spirit unyielding, he felt rejuvenated. "I'm glad we're doing this," she said, her voice strong. "I'm ready to stand up for myself and everyone else who has been affected by these traditions." "We'll do this together," Taryn promised, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "No matter what happens tomorrow, we will face it side by side." As the last of the crowd dispersed, Taran and Luna made their way back to the small tavern where Zara and Erin had gathered their notes and resources for the following day. The atmosphere was tense yet hopeful, the air charged with anticipation. "We need to be strategic," Zara said, spreading a holographic map across the table. "The council chamber is heavily guarded, and the elders will have their supporters with them. We need a plan to ensure we're not outnumbered." "Do you think they will turn violent?" Taran asked, glancing at Luna. The idea of conflict made his heart race, but he knew they had to be prepared for anything. "It's possible," Erin replied, his expression serious. "They may resort to intimidation tactics, using fear to undermine our resolve. We need to stay united and remind ourselves why we're fighting." As they discussed their strategies, Taran felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was no longer just an explorer, he was a protector, a warrior for those who had been silenced. The challenges ahead would not be easy, but he was ready to face them with Luna and their growing alliance. Later that night, as Taran lay on a cot in the tavern, he couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation coursing through his veins. The world outside was quiet, but within him, a storm of determination raged. He closed his eyes, envisioning the gathering at the council chamber, the weight of the elders' authority crumbling beneath the voices of the people. With Luna by his side, he felt invincible. Together, they would challenge the darkness of tradition and fight for a future where everyone could live freely. As he drifted into a restless sleep, Taran's dreams were filled with visions of hope and a world reborn, a world where Luna could thrive, unbound by fear and sacrifice. Confronting the elders, the dawn broke over Arthenia, casting a golden hue across the city as Taran awoke with a sense of purpose. The air was crisp, carrying with it the promise of a day that would determine the fate of Luna and countless others who had suffered under the elders' oppressive traditions. He sat up, the weight of his mission settling heavily on his shoulders, yet a flicker of hope burned brightly in his heart. As he prepared for the day, Taran couldn't help but think of the gathering they had held the previous night. He had witnessed the people unite in a way he had never imagined possible. But today, they would need more than just hope. They would need courage and strategy. They would confront the elders, and that encounter could be fraught with danger. Luna entered the room, her silver hair gleaming in the morning light. Despite the gravity of their situation, she wore a determined expression. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady. Taran nodded, feeling the energy radiating from her. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied. "We're in this together." "Together," Luna echoed, her eyes sparkling with resolve. As they made their way to the council chamber, Taran felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The streets buzzed with activity. Vendors called out to customers, and children laughed as they played. Yet, beneath this facade of normalcy, he sensed a current of tension. Whispers of their cause lingered in the air, and he could feel the eyes of the townspeople upon them, some filled with admiration, others with fear. When they reached the Grand Council chamber, Taran was struck by its imposing structure. The tall, arched doors were intricately carved, depicting ancient scenes of sacrifice and worship. It was a place that held the weight of tradition, a temple of sorts where the elders governed with an iron fist. "Stay close," Taran whispered to Luna as they approached the entrance. "We have to present a united front." As they stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The air felt charged, thick with anticipation. The chamber was vast, with towering pillars lining the sides and a raised dais at the far end, where the elders sat in judgment. Their presence loomed like a storm cloud, dark and oppressive. The elders, draped in flowing robes adorned with symbols of authority, regarded Taran and Luna with a mix of disdain and curiosity. At the center was Elder Kale, a tall figure with a long, white beard and piercing gray eyes. "You dare enter our chamber, defying centuries of tradition," he intoned, his voice booming like thunder. "We do dare," Taran replied, his voice firm and unwavering. "We are here to speak for Luna, and to challenge the customs that bind her people to fear and sacrifice. The room erupted in a murmur as the elders exchanged glances, surprise flickering across their faces. Elder Kale raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "You presume to speak for our community. You are but a human, an outsider in our lands." "I may be an outsider," Taran acknowledged, "but I've seen the pain that these traditions cause. Luna is not a sacrifice. She is a person with dreams and aspirations. We will not allow her to be taken as an offering to appease your gods." Luna stepped forward, her heart racing but her voice strong. "I never wanted to be a part of this. I wanted to live, to explore. This tradition of sacrifice has done nothing but create fear and suffering among our people. It is time for a change." Elder Kale's expression hardened, and Taran sensed the shift in the air. The elders were not accustomed to being challenged. "You speak of change as if it is easy. Our customs are sacred, handed down through generations. To abandon them is to invite chaos. Is it chaos to fight for the rights of the innocent?" Taran countered, his pulse quickening. "Is it chaos to want a future free of fear?" "We have gathered the support of many in the community. They are ready to stand with us against this archaic tradition." "Support?" Kale scoffed. "What do you know of our people's history? What do you know of the sacrifices made to ensure our survival? The gods demand purity, and Luna was chosen for a reason." "She was chosen because of a tradition rooted in fear." Taran fired back, his anger bubbling to the surface. "You hide behind these customs to maintain your power over the people. We will not allow you to sacrifice Luna. We will stand against you." A low rumble of agreement spread through the crowd of supporters who had gathered behind Taran and Luna. Taran could see familiar faces, those who had rallied during their gathering last night, those who had pledged their loyalty to their cause. The elders shifted uncomfortably in their seats, and Taran felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps the tide was turning. Perhaps they could challenge this ancient authority and demand change. Elder Kale's gaze bore into Taran, a calculated look of disdain crossing his features. "If you believe you can sway the hearts of our people, you are sorely mistaken. You may have gathered a few supporters, but true allegiance lies with those who honor tradition. You threaten the very foundation of our society." "Then let the people decide," Taran declared, his voice ringing through the chamber. "Let them choose their own path. We are here to fight for our freedom, and we will not be silenced." At that moment, a commotion erupted at the entrance. The doors swung open, revealing a group of townspeople, their expressions determined as they stepped into the chamber. Zara and Erin led the way, their presence a powerful reminder of the alliance they had forged. "Luna deserves a chance at life," Zara shouted, her voice carrying through the hall. "The people stand with her, and we will not allow the elders to dictate our fates any longer." With the entrance of the supporters, the atmosphere in the chamber shifted dramatically. The people behind Taran surged forward, their voices rising in unity, chanting Luna's name. Taran felt the energy in the room shift, the tide turning in their favor. The elders, once unshakable in their authority, were now visibly rattled by the strength of the community rallying behind Luna. Kale raised his hands to quell the noise, but the chants only grew louder. "Silence," he demanded, but his voice was now strained. "You cannot change the will of the gods." "Who are the gods to dictate our lives?" Taran shot back, emboldened by the swelling support. "We will forge our own destiny." Luna stepped forward again, her voice cutting through the chaos. "If you truly care about our people, you will listen to them. The gods may have ruled our lives for centuries, but it's time for us to reclaim our stories. We are not sacrifices. We are individuals with the right to choose." The chamber fell silent, the gravity of her words hanging in the air. Taran felt a wave of pride wash over him as he looked at Luna, her courage shining like a beacon in the darkness. This was her moment, a chance to break free from the chains of tradition. Finally, Elder Kale leaned forward, a glimmer of uncertainty in his eyes. "If the people wish to challenge tradition, let them speak. But know this, Should you succeed, you will face the consequences of your actions. The crowd murmured, some uncertain, others emboldened. Taran took a deep breath, realizing that this was the moment they had all been waiting for. "We are ready to face whatever comes next," he declared, his heart pounding with resolve. "We will not back down." One by one, members of the crowd stepped forward, sharing their stories of how the traditions had affected their lives, how the fear of the elders had suffocated their community. Each tale added weight to their cause, igniting a fire in the hearts of those present. With every voice raised in solidarity, the elders' authority began to crumble. Taran could feel it, an undeniable shift as the power of community washed over the chamber. The people were reclaiming their voices, and with that reclamation came a sense of liberation. After hours of passionate speeches and heartfelt stories, Elder Kale sat in silence, the fight slowly draining from him. The chamber, once a symbol of oppression, now resonated with a sense of possibility. As the gathering drew to a close, Taran felt a surge of hope. They had begun to dismantle the very traditions that had bound Luna and her people for generations. But the battle was far from over. "Today is just the beginning," he said to Luna, who stood beside him, her face aglow with the passion of their shared cause. "We've made our voices heard, but we must remain vigilant." Together, Luna replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We will face whatever comes next. We won't let fear dictate our lives anymore." As they left the council chamber, Taran felt a sense of camaraderie with the people around him. They had faced the elders, stood against the darkness of tradition, and emerged stronger. And now, they would continue to fight for Luna's freedom and for a future where no one would be sacrificed. The path ahead would not be easy, but Taran knew that with Luna by his side and a community ready to challenge the status quo, they could change the course of history.